Imagine growing up in a household where curiosity met discipline every single day. Was Melinda Gates. Born Melinda Ann French on August 15, 1964, in Dallas, Texas, she grew up in a home where practical routines and intellectual curiosity coexisted. Her father, an aerospace engineer who helped send Americans to the moon, and her mother, who ran the household with precision and warmth, instilled in her a sense of responsibility that would shape her entire life. She was the second of 4 children, and from a young age, she learned the value of shared work. Painting walls, scrubbing floors, balancing rental records, these were not chores. They were lessons in teamwork, independence, and long-term planning. By the time Melinda was 14, she had discovered a new love: technology. Her father brought home an Apple II computer, and she quickly became fascinated by its logic and potential. Few girls in the late 1970s touched coding, yet Melinda immersed herself in the blinking cursor, teaching herself basic and writing small programs for the family rental business. It wasn't just a hobby, it was a glimpse of what she could achieve. She realized early that problem-solving, responsibility, and curiosity weren't just skills, they were tools to shape the future. This foundation of independence and focus would later define her journey through technology, philanthropy, and eventually navigating one of the most public divorces in history. Picture a 14-year-old girl sitting in front of a blinking screen, completely mesmerized. That was Melinda Gates, teaching herself to code on an Apple II computer her father brought home in 1977. While most teens were exploring hobbies or socializing, Melinda was solving real-world problems, keeping track of her family's rental properties, writing tiny programs, and seeing immediate results from her logic. It wasn't just about computers. It was about control, independence, the thrill of making something work through her own effort. High school brought new challenges and opportunities. At Ursuline Academy, Melinda excelled in math and science, standing out in classrooms that tested every student. The school had one of the first computer programs in Texas, and she dove in headfirst. She also began tutoring younger students in math and programming, earning money, and more importantly, discovering a joy she would carry for life, helping others understand complex ideas. Even as a teenager, she realized that guidance and mentorship amplified impact, a theme that would later define her philanthropy. Her high school success set the stage for Duke University, where she entered a male-dominated computer science program. The shift was stark. Confidence met challenge, curiosity met skepticism, and determination met pressure. But Melinda thrived, building the foundation that would allow her to navigate technology, business, and eventually, global influence. Imagine being 23, freshly out of college with an MBA, and standing at a crossroads. Melinda Gates had a stable offer from IBM, a tech giant with security written all over it, but something about Microsoft, still small and ambitious in 1987, called to her. She didn't choose comfort, she chose growth. That decision would change everything. From her first day at Microsoft, Melinda tackled challenges few women faced at the time. She dove into multimedia projects, learning the intricate layers of software, team management, and product development. Her first major project, Cinemania, was a groundbreaking CD-ROM movie guide that sold over 200,000 copies in its first year. Then came Inarda, the multimedia encyclopedia, which combined text, photos, audio, and video in ways families and schools had never seen. Each project built her reputation quietly but powerfully. She wasn't just managing products, she was shaping experiences that touched millions of people. Even as she rose professionally, Melinda navigated a male-dominated corporate world with grace. Meetings were loud, competitive, and often overwhelming, yet she learned how to assert her voice without losing her calm. It was here in the crucible of Microsoft that Melinda honed the skills that would make her one of the most influential women in technology and philanthropy. Vision, courage, and an unwavering commitment to solving real problems. What happens when a rising tech star meets one of the most famous men in the world? In 1987, Melinda Gates started dating Bill Gates, but it wasn't a fairy tale romance. Workplace rules meant their relationship had to stay secret, and both knew the stakes were enormous. Yet behind the scenes, they built a partnership rooted in intellect, shared goals, and mutual respect. By 1994, they married on the island of Lanai in Hawaii, a small ceremony with just 20 guests. Melinda entered the marriage with her independence intact. She negotiated a strong prenup, ensuring she remained an equal partner in both life and finances. Even as Bill became the face of Microsoft, Melinda continued to run major projects, lead teams, and innovate. Her focus was unwavering. Work mattered just as much as love, and she refused to let her personal life overshadow her ambitions. Balancing marriage, career, and later motherhood was not easy. Melinda gave birth to 3 children while still managing some of Microsoft's most important products. She navigated a hyper-sure corporate world where being a woman often meant proving herself twice as hard. Through it all, she demonstrated that ambition and family could coexist. If you had the courage to define success on your own terms, imagine walking away from a career at one of the world's most powerful companies while the world expects you to keep climbing. That's exactly what Melinda Gates did in 1996. At 32, she was running massive teams, shaping products used by millions, and quietly influencing Microsoft's culture. She could have stayed and climbed higher, but she made a bold choice. 2. Leave corporate life and focus on raising her children while exploring a new path. Before she left, Melinda helped guide one last groundbreaking Project Expedia. What started as a small internal idea became a public company that transformed how people booked travel online. Her strategic vision and insistence on user-focused design helped the company grow faster than anyone anticipated. That success was proof she could shape industries, not just products. Walking away from Microsoft didn't mean stepping out of influence. It meant redirecting it. Melinda began transferring stock and resources to projects with purpose, planting seeds for what would become the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Her early lessons in discipline, leadership, and problem-solving now had a new stage: global philanthropy. The woman who had quietly shipped software from a cubicle was about to change the world in ways even the tech industry couldn't imagine. What happens when someone with the mind of a tech visionary turns their focus to solving the world's biggest problems? For Melinda Gates, the answer was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a quietly revolutionary force in global philanthropy. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, she and Bill began moving billions in Microsoft stock into initiatives that could change lives, not just fund programs. But Melinda's approach was different. She didn't just write checks. She applied her product manager mindsets, strategic, data-driven, and relentless about results to philanthropy. Her first steps were grounded in accessibility and education. Libraries online brought computers to communities that had never touched one before. Scholarships, teacher training, and experiments in education reform followed. Melinda had learned early that small, precise interventions could ripple into massive change. When she traveled to Africa and witnessed the human cost of preventable diseases, her focus shifted. Vaccination campaigns, maternal health, and family planning became central to her work, saving millions of lives over the next decades. By 2015, the Foundation's endowment had grown beyond $50 billion, making it one of the largest philanthropic organizations in history. Melinda's voice and vision were at the center, driving decisions with the same precision she had applied to software products at Microsoft. For her, philanthropy was not just giving, it was designing solutions that could outlast her. Even as Melinda Gates was reshaping the world, her personal life was quietly unraveling. Behind the carefully curated images of a successful wife, mother, and philanthropist, tensions had been simmering for years. By the late 2010s, cracks that had existed for decades were becoming impossible to ignore. Allegations of Bill's inappropriate relationships, including one with a Microsoft employee, and his continued association with Jeffrey Epstein, weighed heavily on Melinda. One 2013 meeting at Epstein's townhouse haunted her years later, leaving her shaken and questioning the boundaries of trust in her marriage. For someone who had spent her life mastering control over projects, teams, and strategy, this sense of betrayal was destabilizing. Melinda began experiencing panic attacks and vivid nightmares, forcing her to confront emotions she had long set aside. It was not just about infidelity, it was about integrity, honesty, and the values she had upheld in every aspect of her life. Even as she navigated these personal crises, she continued her work. Publishing Moment of Lift in 2019, a book that showcased her advocacy for women and families. But behind the words, she was processing a deep sense of loss of partnership, stability, and trust. By 2019, she had quietly begun consulting divorce attorneys, preparing for a decision that would soon shock the world. Leaving a marriage built on both immense power and profound betrayal. When Melinda Gates stepped out of the shadow of one of the world's most powerful men, it made headlines worldwide. In May 2021, after 27 years of marriage, she and Bill announced their divorce is split, reportedly worth $76 billion, one of the largest in history. But the numbers barely tell the story. Behind the headlines was a woman reclaiming her life, courageously facing betrayal, and redefining her identity on her own terms. For Melinda, the decision to leave was years in the making. It wasn't sudden anger or a public scandal, it was a profound realization that trust and honesty had eroded to a point where intimacy and partnership were no longer possible. Therapy, self-reflection, and months of private planning guided her through the emotional storm. The world saw the final act, but Melinda had been navigating this difficult terrain long before cameras or news stories caught wind, even in the midst of personal upheaval. She remained committed to her purpose. Immediately after the divorce, she pledged $1 billion toward women's health and empowerment, signaling that her focus would not be on the past, but on building a future where women could thrive independently. In stepping away, she sent a powerful message: independence, integrity, and impact could coexist, even after one of the most public partnerships in history ended in heartbreak. After the divorce, Melinda Gates faced a choice that would define the next chapter of her life: retreat into privacy or step boldly into her own mission. She chose the latter. In 2021, she'd committed $1 billion over 2 years to projects focused on women's health and empowerment, signaling a clear shift. Her wealth and influence would serve a higher purpose. Not just personal security, Melinda's post-divorce years became a masterclass in reinvention. Through her company, Pivotal Ventures, she invested in organizations that promoted women in technology, finance, caregiving, and media, believing that when women gain power, communities and economies thrive. By 2025, Pivotal had supported over 150 projects worldwide, from startups to large initiatives, directly improving opportunities for millions. Yet her journey wasn't only about money. She leaned into storytelling, writing her memoir The Next Day, where she openly described her struggles with trust, panic attacks, and the emotional cost of standing beside someone so powerful. In interviews, she shared lessons on honesty, boundaries, and the courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. Her message resonated far beyond boardrooms and philanthropy circles. It touched anyone who has faced betrayal, doubt, or the challenge of starting over. Melinda Gates had moved from a life defined by partnership to one defined by purpose, proving that true influence comes from integrity, vision, and the courage to forge your own path. By 2025, Melinda Gates had transformed from the quiet, brilliant woman behind Microsoft into a global force shaping the future of philanthropy. Her life was no longer defined by a famous marriage or the shadow of one of the world's richest men. Instead, it was defined by the billions she had directed toward improving health, education, and opportunity for women and children worldwide. Her legacy is both tangible and inspirational. Through the Gates Foundation, millions of children received life-saving vaccines. Families gained access to contraception and maternal health programs. Libraries and schools around the globe became gateways to technology and learning. Pivotal Ventures amplified the power of women-led organizations, creating pathways for leadership, financial independence, and systemic change. Yet her greatest impact may be personal, showing that resilience, honesty, and courage can redefine a life. Melinda's story is a blueprint for reclaiming identity, taking risks, and transforming setbacks into influence. She proved that walking away from a gilded cage doesn't mean retreating. It can mean stepping into the center of the world stage on your own terms. From a curious young girl tinkering on an Apple II to a leader shaping global policy, Melinda Gates' journey is a testament to the power of vision, integrity, and relentless determination. She didn't just survive a storm. She built a future others could follow.
Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into Hollywood's hidden history.